on Ukraine's border.
And joining me now is retired Major John Spencer, who is chair of Urban Warfare Studies at US-based national security think tank, the Madison Policy Forum. Thank you very much for joining us on BBC News today. So much analysis of what might happen next in this war, of course, but a lot as well on what has happened already. And there does seem to have been an expectation by the Russian forces that they were going to be able to achieve their aims, their goals relatively quickly. That hasn't happened. How much has that been down to the smaller, more agile Ukrainian units in comparison to those columns of Russian tanks that we've seen?
Yeah, it's been very important. I think you had it right on the goals. So the objectives of the Ukrainians were just to stop the Russians from achieving their goals, like taking Kyiv and other areas that they fought hard using, kind of what I study, the principles of urban defense, so that they don't have to be bigger or even better than the Russian forces if the Russians are attacking and they are defending. But they've also gone on some amazing counterattacks using surprise to their advantage. So I think it's amazing.
And we've seen images, haven't we, of citizens making Molotov cocktails to use as well. So it has been quite astonishing to see this in contrast to the scale of what Russia has.
Yeah, I think Ukraine is going to remind the world what we military analysts, old soldiers have known for centuries, is that the most important thing in war is the will of the people to fight. That's the military, in this case, the volunteers and the territorial defense, and the Ukrainian citizens. They fought and they had the will to fight, and the Russians didn't.
Yeah, how important is that sense of morale, that sense of cause? Because we know down in the east, the southeast of Ukraine, where the Russian military was already communicating well, they have been fighting more effectively. To the north of Ukraine, where they were coming in from Belarus, and in that section of the country, we heard of Russian units that were told they were going out on training exercises and then being told carry on into Ukraine on this military operation. There seems to have been a less cohesive approach from those Russian units. So how important is that sense of cause, that sense of morale?
It's more important than any other factor that you can analyze in this war. I mean, Napoleon said the moral is 3-to-1 to the physical. As an old soldier, I know that things that you just mentioned, morale, motivation, cohesion, I mean, all war is a contest of wills. And Russia didn't have the will, like you said, most of them didn't even know what they were doing. The Ukrainians are willing to pay the ultimate price, and they have shown so, and they're suffering. They need a lot of help. But yeah, they're teaching the world that fight and all the things it takes to keep that fight in soldiers is more important than the size or capabilities of your military.
And I understand that you have written a manual on warfare for advice for soldiers heading into combat zones, or indeed advice for civilians in the case of the Ukrainians, so many of them having to obviously fight to defend their country heading into combat zones. That has been translated into Ukrainian, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also been distributed by the Ukrainian government to the people. I mean, look, I don't like civilians fighting in war because once they pick up a weapon, they're no longer civilians, they're combatants. But I wrote a manual called the Mini Manual for the Urban Defender, which really focuses on protection. The urban environments provide so much protection, places to hide, and places to, if you want, attack. And they've used that, and I'm very hopeful, and I have seen that it has been helpful to make sure that people fighting stay protected and defeat the Russians using this very basic principles.
We've seen the Russians retreat in some areas, but looking forward, looking ahead, what are your concerns about what might come next in terms of Russian strategy?
Yeah, I think what's most concerning is the Russians attempting, well, it's going to be very hard for them. Let's be clear. The forces in the east, well, Mariupol is a big concern, but the Ukrainian forces in the east, as Russia failed, it was defeated in their main objective of taking Kyiv, are now going to concentrate on cutting off and basically trying to get a win out of taking the eastern portion of Ukraine, the Donbass. So my concern is that Russia is able to encircle those forces like they did in Mariupol and then, achieve their goal. But there's a lot of fight still to be had. This war is nowhere near over.
Major John Spencer, retired Major John Spencer from the Madison Policy Forum. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.